What's up, guys? I know it's been a minute, but I'm back with my fight night predictions for Paul Felder versus Dan Hooker. Obviously, I'm gonna do the main card. I'm actually gonna recap last week's show, just to talk about what happened and my thoughts and stuff like that with Corey Anderson, and that was kind of crazy. But yeah, I'll start off with the main card predictions. Obviously, I start from bottom to top. With the show opener, you got Kelvin Igalar versus Zubar Tufganov. If you guys remember Zubar, he was in the Conor McGregor Khabib melee. Um, Man, this is a tough one for me. I'm not that familiar with Kevin, but I guess I'm gonna go Zubar. I've seen him fight a few times. Then the next fight is actually a really interesting one. You got um, Brad Riddle versus Magomed Musaev. Uh, I'm sorry, I know I'm butchering this guy's name, but Magomed Musaev is, man, he's a killer, bro. He had this the last fight I seen him, he had this fucking sidekick to death, knocked the guy down. I thought he almost killed him. Was this? No, it's a wheel kick actually. A spinning wheel kick. It was fucking lethal, bro. Lethal. But if I was to go, and I seen Brad Riddle's fight. He didn't have the greatest fight in the world in terms of his performance. It was an awesome fight though. It was back and forth. They was going back at it, but I'm gonna go Brad Riddle. Or Rydell. I think is it Rydell? I'm not sure. He looked, man. It was a really great fight. Man, those fucking city kickboxing boys have been going off, so I'm gonna have to go with them. And then next fight is we got Ben Sassoli back, guys. He's going up against Marcos Rogero de Lima. I'm not that familiar with Marcos de Lima, but I am familiar with Ben Sassoli. I seen him fight Greg Hardy. I seen him fight on what's the show called? Oh my god, the Contender, bro. I almost forgot the Contender series. He has some knockout power. He just has a problem with setting it up. But you know, I I'm gonna assume he learned some stuff from his last fight. And just setting up those shots, man. He's kind of like depending on those one hitter quitters, and obviously, at a certain level, when you knock so many guys out and you feel like it's gonna come, I understand the situation, so I don't blame him too much. And then next fight is Karolina Kovacevic versus Jan Zawanin or whatever. I don't know how to pronounce her name. um, uh, Man, Carolina's go. I think she's on a. Is it 3-fight losing streak? Has she won? She's on a 3-fight losing streak. I think it was Jessica Michelle Watterson. And who was the other girl that beat her? I forgot her name. It's a Mexican fighter. She was gonna fight Claudia Gadelia, but she missed weight and she's going up to fight. I forgot her name. But yeah, she's on a 3-fight losing streak. She needs a win bad, so I'm gonna go Carolina. And she's my girl. I think she's probably one of the most decent looking strawweights. So yeah, and then the co-main event. This is a really good man. This is and I know I'm gonna surprise some people. You got Jim Crute versus Mikhail Stroke or whatever his name is. The guy Mikhail can fucking box his ass off, man. He doesn't look like he should be a light heavyweight. And Jim Crute, he can punch, man. He can knock motherfuckers out. Now, they both had opportunities at light heavyweight contenders, and they both started off so great, in my opinion. But the grappling got into it. With Jim Crute, he went against Mirsha Serkinov, and he knocked him down fucking bad. He looked really, really good in the fight. But I don't know, he cooned out, man. Like, he got caught with the Peruvian necktie. Or I think Peruvian, is it a guillotine or whatever? He got caught up in that and choked out. And then Mikhail, he fought OSP. I don't even think OSP was ranked. Was he ranked when he fought? I think OSP wasn't even ranked, but OSP is a name. Everyone knows OSP. and Mikhail looked amazing. He was boxing him up, man. The guy can, I mean, he can box, and he has lethal body shots. Go check out what he did to Gian Vellante. All right, so man, that motherfucker can box, and he was winning that fight, and then he got taken down, and then I think it's called the Von Flute. He got caught up in the Von Flute choke, and yeah, so these both of these guys are I wouldn't say heavy hitters, but they're strikers. Um, I think Jim Cruz more on the heavy hitter side. They both obviously have had problems with certain grapplers, and I'm pretty sure none of them was gonna go for the takedown. It would be smart. I would do that if I was them, but you know, it's a this is a tough one. But I'm gonna go Mikhail, man. That motherfucker can fucking fight his ass off, man. Man, can he box, bro? He can. It's the level of boxing that he shows in the UFC. It's very very underrated in my opinion. And a lot of guys don't understand it, man. It's almost a lost art. But Jim Crute, he can hit, and he's a big boy. I think if Jim's biggest advantage in this fight is how big he is muscularly and how much power he carries, and I just feel like Mikhail is just, man, he's too small, low key. He doesn't have that light heavyweight frame, but he also, Mikhail's defense, man, he brings in a certain different level of speed to light heavyweight. So it's an interesting fight. I'm obviously gonna go with Mikhail. The motherfucker is a killer. And in our main event, we're already here, 6 minutes in. Dan Hooker versus Paul Felder. Man, I fucking love this fight. I fucking love this fight. I was so happy when they announced it. I was like, this is the fight to make. This is what they need to do. Both guys are are almost in crossroads in their careers. You know, Paul Felder's been in this game for so long, and I feel like he's finally figured it out. It's so weird that we're saying this. Just a year ago or 2 years ago, he wasn't even ranked. Now he's fighting in a main event fight with title implications. But he's been in the UFC for a long time. I think maybe close to. I've seen him fight for 6 years, and he's probably fought even longer than that. So this is kind of like, I don't want to say his last hurrah, but this is his last push to a title fight. I think this is his legitimate last chance for him to fight for a title. But Dan is, on the other hand, he's young, hungry, and I don't want to say he can take some losses, but he's in a different, Paul Felder at Hooker's age wasn't the number 7 guy in the world that potentially could be a top 5 guy. Basically they're very different. But even though they're in the crossroads of their careers, they still have one same thing that is pretty similar. They're fighting for that top 5 spot. Obviously Cerrone is on the lower 5, so they're obviously trying to get him out of the way and crack into that. Both guys are coming off of wins. Dan Hooker's coming off a decision win against Ali Quinta, and Felder's coming off a win over Edson Barboza. I think was it before? I think he beat James Vick before that, and I think Dan Hooker knocked out James Vick before that, which is something you guys should look at in terms of similar opponents. It's a really interesting fight. It's gonna be a stand-up fight. It's so hard for me to predict this because they do have one similar opponent, in Edson Barboza. Edson did beat Hooker. He finished him, and Edson does have a win over Felder, but Felder has beat him in the rematch. And I think the more important part about that fight, and I know a lot of people felt like Edson beat Felder, and I'm kind of a little, I don't want to say biased, but I was rooting for Felder in that fight, so I'm going to say no comment on that. But the difference between Felder's performance against Hooker and the difference between their two performances against Edson is that, man, Felder was in the fight, and this is how I knew Felder won the argument, is when he said, all right, let's have a third fight then. 5 rounds, because I knew you were going to fade. And Edson was like, no, I don't want to fight you again. When someone says that to you, right, you won the argument. I felt like Edson had won the first 2 rounds, and I agree with that. And he probably should have got the nod. But he was fading. He gave up in that third. And that's what really gave Felder that hope that he was going to finish him. And you could see Felder was loading up in his punches, you know. But with Hooker's performance, man, Hooker and Felder, the way Felder beat, or I guess lasted the decision against Edson was he mixed in the grappling. Now Hooker said, fuck that. And he took all his shots, man. He was so tough in there. But he got finished, though. He got finished kneeling down, face down, ass up. He got finished with a body kick. He got hurt. Dan he's a good competitor. He can fight. And he's technically sound, man. He's so technically sound. He's those split reactions. He's so good at finding you and just getting those moments, you know, finding somebody. When he's doing that double roll against James Vick and he goes for that hook, man, it was so beautiful. Or when he, tucks his chin and you could see he does that double hook with Gilbert Burns. If you look at those things, at those situations, and Gilbert has his chin out, and he knocks him out cold, man. Or when he catches Jim Miller with that knee and fucking not Rob Pearson. Is it Rob Pearson? Or Pearson something, I don't know. He catches both those guys with those knees, man. He's a fucking killer, man. But man, he got caught. Well, I don't want to say got caught. He got caught in his own ego against Edson, and Edson taught him a lot. He taught him a good lesson. He taught him a valuable lesson. So, that's what. But I just feel like Hooker is still better than Felder. Felder loads up on his punches a lot. It's very similar to the Jim Crute fight. You're dealing with, like, I truly believe Felder probably punches harder than Hooker. But with Hooker, he's more technically sound, and I think it's gonna be competitive, but I think Hooker will beat him, and I think it's gonna be a great scrap, and I can't fucking wait for it. But I could see Felder beating him because Felder is. I do also believe Felder's tougher than him, but I think if Hooker just sticks with the game plan that their City Kickboxing is coming up with, and doesn't let his ego get in the way, I think he beats Felder. But that's on just based on paper. But there's also things you gotta think about is they just go stand and bang, and if they go stand and bang, trade shot for shot, I'm telling you right now, Felder is standing and Hooker is laid out cold. But Hooker's not. I'm hopefully Hooker doesn't do that, so my pick is right. So I'm going with Dan Hooker. That's it. Also, we gotta talk about this, man. I know I didn't do a prediction to the Corey Anderson Juan Bolchevich fight. So heartbroken, man. I was so heartbroken. I was gonna go with Corey Anderson to win that fight. I did go with Corey Anderson to beat Johnny Walker, and I was so happy for the guy. But man, did Juan Bolchevich starch him for throwing that leg kick. Whew. That's why you never throw leg kicks with no setup, man. I learned that watching the Nasrat versus Drew Dober fight. Go check that out. That's another one where someone goes for the leg kick with no setup and gets fucking cracked with a right. It was brutal, man. That was a brutal knockout. Juan Bolchevich, man, that motherfucker, bro. I've doubted that mofo through this whole time. Ever since he lost to Thiago Santos, I said Thiago Santos was gonna beat him because I just preordained him to be a gatekeeper, But that's what makes Juan Bolshevich, I guess, low key kind of great. You know, um, but you know, I thought Luke Rockhold was gonna beat him. I thought Jacare was gonna, and I thought Corey was gonna beat him. Do I think he's better than Corey now? No, I don't. I think he capitalized on Corey's mistake, and he caught Corey slipping. If they was to have a third fight, I think Corey can at least beat that guy. I do think he can beat Juan Bolshevich, but he's on a different level, man. He's on some, and it's not a level of like his skills, but his confidence, man. He is on a trip, man. He truly believes he's the best light heavyweight in the world, and all to him, bro. All to him. So seeing him kind of, go face to face with John Jones, and John not even phased. John wasn't even phased. That's what's crazy about it. I thought John would have been sad because if Corey would have fought John, they would have had a pretty interesting kind of dynamic because Corey's gonna talk trash, he's gonna go at him, and I think John would have preferred an opponent like Corey, but John isn't scared of all challengers, man. So that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Gave you a little extra, but see y'all.